Hey guys, welcome into another episode of DIRTRACKR Conversations. The Chili Bowl is on tap for this week, and we wanted to go ahead and get you ready for all of the action. So this week we did something a little bit different, and we're doing a joint episode with the guys at the Passing Points podcast. So on this episode, it's me, Travis Ashwood, and Michael Tyre, and we talk everything Chili Bowl, guys to watch, prelim nights, all kinds of stuff on this episode. So dive in, take a listen, get yourself ready for the Chili Bowl. Please enjoy the show. All right, jumping into a special edition of DIRTRACKR Conversations. This is a crossover episode. We're doing kind of a joint DIRTRACKR Conversations Passing Points episode. So obviously, these two guys on the screen with me, Michael Tyre, Travis Ashwood, two of the three hosts normally from the Passing Points podcast. Lane is still over at the Expo Center trying to get loaded in for Chili Bowl, I think. But we're going to just jump in, and I just want to talk Chili Bowl for however long we feel like talking. So I wrote a few notes down, but you guys live in the area, so kind of start me off with your own histories with the Chili Bowl. Like, how many years have you been going? Like, I know Travis is racing it a few times. Like, start me off with just like how much you guys have been around this event.
Well, I mean, essentially for me, I was born in 1988, so it's been around my whole life. I didn't start going until I was a teenager, and so I've been going consistently since like maybe 2006, 2007. Since I've been an adult, I've done everything I could to buy tickets every year or a pit pass. So the only time I've missed in recent years was, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years ago. I had to miss because somebody decided to get married during Chili Bowl week. And
wow.
So,
yeah. It was the cheapest time.
What you want, like an outdoor wedding or something?
We went to Honduras.
I got married on a beach in Honduras.
Okay, good. You weren't married in Tulsa.
And that was the cheapest time to go. So that's when we went.
So that's the only Chili Bowl I've missed in recent years.
The best thing about it, though, is I can never forget my anniversary because it's always
Chili Bowl.
It's always during the Chili Bowl. Yep.
Yeah. So I got married on New Year's Eve, so I always know when it comes around to New Year's Eve that's my wedding anniversary. So
it's a smart trick for all the single guys out there that are planning to get married. It's use something so you can remember when it is.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Travis? When did you start going?
I don't know. It's always been here. I mean, like. Yeah. How old was it? 36. Which one are we on now?
36.
36. Yeah. So I was a year old when they first started doing it. So, I mean, it's just always been there. We've always been going.
Yeah.
I feel like it's interesting. Like for me, I mean, I've been around motorsports like my whole life, and like Chili Bowl was always something that like I kind of knew about like peripherally, but like until I like started working for the World of Outlaws and like getting to know Brian Dunlap and Russ Weiss and like how kind of into that event they are. Like I hadn't really kind of put a lot, like, paid attention a lot to what's happened in that event. And that's like here in the last couple of years, kind of going back and rewatching, like I went back and watched what was the first year Tony Stewart won, and like
2002.
2002, him and Kevin Doty, like going back and forth at the end of that race, like going back and watching some of those old races and kind of getting myself up to speed on that event is like my own history with the Chili Bowl was like very small, like back to like 2016, 2017. So it's like, it's weird for you guys that it's like the complete opposite. Like you guys don't know a world without the Chili Bowl. And like, for me, it's like completely new thing that I'm kind of involved in.
Well, it's not always been this huge, gigantic deal like it is now. Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, when I was smaller, it wasn't, it was like 2 or 3 nights a week. It wasn't all week long. And you didn't have these 400 cars showing up. And
I think even from the time I started going consistently, it was just Wednesday through Saturday, and now it's gotten to the point where rather than battling through work all week and going all 6 nights, I finally decided this year I just took vacation. Like I'm just taking the whole week off.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's so much fun, and there's so many people you see once a year.
Yeah, we did, like the year we brought Ross was 2017, and I went the whole week. I think I flew in that year. Monday was just practice day, and I got there partway through the day on Monday, and then stayed the whole week. And then later on, my dad and my brother came. And it was really fun on Saturday. Like we got up and watched Ross run the back of the O main, at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then we left and went and got lunch and stuff, and then ended up coming back. But like we staked out our spot, like up on the deck. And since there was the 3 of us, like we were basically like in a rotation where it was like 2 of us would stay. One of us would go to the bathroom and get beers, come back. And then it was just like a constant rotation all day long of like who was getting beers and go to the bathroom.
You have to do that if you want to keep your spot.
Exactly.
It'll be gone, man.
And it's crazy, like how that like deck changes like through the week. It's like on the prelim nights, it's like not too bad because like guys are kind of up and down all day and there's like plenty of space. But like come Saturday, like people like that thing is packed to the like all the way to the railing, and like you better have your spot because you're not going to have anywhere to see the race.
Yeah, they live there all Saturday long. Yeah.
Absolutely. And like seeing people like stake out, like when I was there, like there were like people would put benches up and it was like the Swindell bench or whatever. Like you weren't allowed to like stand right there and stuff. It's pretty crazy how that works.
Did you ever go back to the back row, or not the back row, but the back grandstands?
Yeah. I went over there, and like the thing that I really struggled with over there, and I guess maybe you just have to be a few beers deep before you go over there, but like just I feel like the fumes are really bad in that corner.
Oh yeah.
And so I wasn't like, I think I watched maybe like a couple heat races or something over there, and I had to bail.
There's that big exhaust unit over there, so it's pulling everything towards you and across you anyways.
Yeah, it was vicious over there. Like I couldn't make it very long.
Yeah.
Well, Travis, tell me about your like racing in that event. I know you've done it a couple of times, and it's like
I've done it once. Really, we did it the first time we did it. We blew a motor up in our prelim heat race,
second lap,
and we were going to change motors, but I was like, we didn't have the motor there. We were going to have to change motors for Saturday. I was like, well, I don't want to work that hard to start racing during breakfast. So we just decided to skip the rest of that year and just do it again next year. And the next year we, like you said, but the O main, we got into our K main, and just, had a fun time just showing up and playing around, playing race car driver.
But where I wanted to go with this is like one of the things that like, you hear guys talk about is like the Chili Bowl is like once a year, right? And it's like, it's not like there's weekly racing that happens at the Expo Center. Like the only time you can get experiences during that week.
Oh, that's my first laps in a midget.
Yeah. And so it's like, and I mean, a lot of guys get their first laps in a midget at that event. I mean, look at all the NASCAR drivers that have done that. But what I'm wondering is like, how difficult is it to like figure out what the hell you even have? Like you get a couple of hot laps and it's like, then you're, back then you got your full Monday, you might get 2 hot lap sessions and you get your hot lap session, on your prelim night. But like, how do you even figure out like how to set the car up and where to run on the track? Like when you get so little track time, it's insane to me that you'd even be able to adjust.
I mean, a lot of it is just like experience and other things in dirt racing. And then you also have to just watch other people and kind of mimic what they're doing. And you can pretty much read the tracks to know where you want to go to the bottom and top. And it's just like any other dirt track. It's just inside of a building. I mean, you just read it and it moves too,
Yeah, for sure. Do you feel like, watching guys like watching Brian Dunlap, for example, like him and his dad have a couple of cars, and it's like when it's their race days, like they're like, I wouldn't say stressed, but like it just feels like there's a lot happening and like turning the cars around and stuff. And like, did you was that your experience where you kind of like amped up on your prelim day?
I was pretty stressed going into the day, mainly it was a lot of the unknown. I didn't know what I was getting into, but once you get to turn those first laps and hot laps or whatever, and actually realize it's just a race car, it's just another track, the nerves come down.
Yeah.
I will say though, like one of the coolest feelings is sitting on the ramp. I tell Michael he needs to run it just so he can realize he's getting ready to roll out there with all those guys.
I liked one of my favorite things about that is like the way they line the 4-wheelers up, and like you basically roll forward until you put your front bumper on the guy on the 4-wheeler in front of you, so you can kind of relax for a second. But just like even on the ramp, you can see just like how intense guys are already, and they're like kind of trying to peek through to see like what's happening, or like somebody's got a phone in front of them so they can see the broadcast. Well,
you're also just trying to see what they're doing, the other cars, the race before you are doing on the track, see what lines are coming in, where's the track migrating to, just that way, you're trying to get some advantage, but everybody else is doing the same thing, so like, I don't know, you don't know if you're getting it or not, but you just also don't want to get left behind.
What is that feeling like when you're like, not even to the ramp yet, but like when you're in the staging lanes and then you kind of like, I feel like some guys are in the car immediately. Some guys kind of wait to get in the car till they get up there. Like, where were you at? Were you in the car already, like ready to go?
I've always been one of the first ones in the car. Okay. I tell everybody I'm slow. Yeah. I mean, I want to make sure everything's put together and ready to go, and I don't have to be stressing out about it, because I feel more comfortable knowing I'm ready to roll out. That's me. That's me. I'm sure everybody else is a little bit different, but that's me in everything I get into.
And I'm curious about that experience of like sitting in the car, like either in the lanes or on the ramp. And like, you've got idiots like me that are like shoving cameras and stuff in your face. Like, do you see that stuff? Do you see the flashes, or are you just like locked into what you're doing?
I do. I noticed it. I mean,
Okay.
I've kind of gotten with age, gotten a little bit more relaxed. I kind of, it's kind of
Not so
cool,
tight, not so tense.
Yeah, it's like, it's just I'm sitting there thinking, man, I wonder who that is and where I can see that picture sometimes,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like I hope it turns out good.
Yeah.
Well, so what's the plan for this week? When are you guys going to go? Are you guys going to be there every night, or what are you thinking?
Oh yeah, we'll be there.
Yeah. I mean, basically as soon as we get done recording this, we're going to load some stuff up and head up there and start trying to set up our booth in the trade show for the podcast. And then just kind of get an idea through the week. We got a mobile recording station that we're planning on taking around the pits. And
you sent me that picture. I'm so like, I'm excited to see what you end up with this thing.
Yeah. I cannot take all the credit for it. Haas, I don't know if you know who he is. He's from around here. Voice of Port City Raceway, does a lot of stuff. I was over at his office ordering banners and stuff, and he gave me this idea, and I was like, I love it. And I just took off with it. Rather than trying to, go talk to guys and get them to come over to our booth in the trade show, man, we're just going to take the equipment to them. And then as long as I got somewhere I can just plug in a 110 extension cord, we can do an interview there. And then hopefully, try to set up some guys still to come over to the trade show booth, maybe do some live shows over there. But just, man, we're going to be there a lot. I know I took off all week. Travis took half days off, so he's going to come out every afternoon. And man, we'll be playing podcast, trying to get interviews and stuff, and then hanging out with people in between, and then enjoying the races every evening as well. So it's going to be a long week for us.
What's the the trade show booth, like where you guys are, like what, like I kind of looked at the map and it's like kind of hard to tell, but like, are you guys going to be kind of in a high traffic area? Like, are you guys going to be able to draw a crowd where you're at?
I hope so. I was looking at the map too. It is kind of hard to tell. It looks like they laid it out a little bit different this year.
Okay.
It looks like rather than through that area, there used to be a straight walk through. And it looks like they kind of made it to where you have to turn there and then go this way and then go that way. Like they're almost
S system.
They made it like an S, and you got to swerve through there. So it almost looks like they've forced foot traffic to walk by every booth.
Okay.
So I think
that's probably good then.
Yeah, I think that's going to be good.
One of the things that I feel like is great about the Chili Bowl is like you guys are talking about getting there in the afternoon and people walking through the expo or walking through the trade show area is like, it's such a good event to go and like get a pit pass, especially like early in the afternoon when everyone is just kind of hanging out. Like there's a lot of the drivers are there. And like, I mean, there are people that you can approach that you will not be able to approach at any other point, like throughout the season, like you can there. And I feel like that's one of my favorite things about that event is just how like intermingled everything is. I
mean, straight up, honest to God, I met Rico Abreu in the bathroom at the Chili Bowl.
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that happens.
And dude, nicest guy as can be. And, but that's exactly how it is. You never know who you're going to run into, who you're standing at the fence just comes up, who's going to stand up there next to you. And then you just have a quick conversation with, you're rubbing elbows with
to look forwards.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're rubbing elbows with the elite in the sport all week long. And, even like your Tony Stewarts and stuff. There was one year I was standing there, I was talking to this guy from New Zealand. We were having a conversation, and he just so happened to have been talking to Tony Stewart before me. So I'm like kind of in this group of four, and I'm talking to him, and Tony's talking to this other guy, and just like, it's just another day at the racetrack. So like, it's amazing how, like you said, these people, you can get a pit pass and you can go there a couple hours early and you can just mingle with the elite of the sport. And they're okay with that. They're not, running from autographs or anything like that. And the other thing I love about the dirt track racing community is, we're also, for the most part, most of our fans are respectful of them enough that they're not just hounding them for autographs all the time. They kind of wait till the time's right after the races, things of that nature.
Well, that's what I was going to say too, is I feel like even though those guys are walking around, they're not being hounded like Larson and Bell, those guys that would be hounded at other racetracks. Like inside of that building, even when it's packed, they're not getting mobbed. Like they're able to move around the building and it's like not a big deal, which I think is absolutely great.
It is. It's almost unbelievable how we can have that culture where like we understand their stardom and how great they are, but we also are like, we can also understand it from a distance and let them have their space and then go get that autograph when the time's right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're just normal people too. Like once you start being around these people, like they're just people, like they just have a different job than you do. You know what I mean? Like They like the old saying goes, my old man used to say, like, they put their pants on the same way I do. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not that different. So
Yeah,
they just drive a car a lot faster than most of us do.
yeah, they can just do things we just can't do. I
And
mean,
that's they race after dinner. I race before lunch, that kind of thing.
That's one thing that this podcast has taught me over the last year that we've been doing this. I kind of geeked out over some of the big names we've had on the show, and I've been very thankful of that. But I've started to realize, man, these guys are just racers like me and Travis. They're just they're better, but they're just dudes racing cars, and it's been really cool to meet some of these guys and chat with them. And probably one of the coolest guys we've had a conversation with, hands down, most down to earth person was probably Tyler Courtney.
mm-hmm.
And like the dude is a legit badass in anything he gets in as well, but he's just cool, man, and just awesome.
Super
to talk
nice
to.
guy.
Yeah, I mean, and just like cutting up like you were buddies for years.
Mm-hmm.
But that like you said, that's just how the racing community is, and they're just guys with race cars.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk about like a little bit of the racing itself. And one thing, we talk about how many entries are at the Chili Bowl, and like this year we're right around 400 right now. We've broken pre-entry record and all of this stuff. But when you actually like look at the results, it's like the same guys that are like winning prelim nights, that are winning, the races. And like, if you look, Larson's won the last two, Bell's won the three before that, Rico before that. So like those three guys, the last time one of those three guys didn't win was when Clausen won in 2014.
Right.
And then when you look at the different owners, Larson owned his own car the last 2 years, but before that was Keith 5 years in a row. And so like the last winning owner before that was 2014. So it's like, and then you look at prelim,
which was
nights.
Keith's brother, right? Rusty Coons.
Yeah. It was like a dueling Rusty partnership or something like that.
Yeah.
And then
real quick, I would say just that 2014 when Clausen won, just to see, it was such a surreal moment to see him win that thing. And it was awesome to enjoy in the moment, but since he's been gone, looking back on it, being there in the stands, getting to see him pull that off and finally be the one that dethroned Kevin Swindell.
Yep.
That's one of my favorite Chili Bowl moments of all time.
And it's like,
sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. And it means more, like, even once you get away from it, and now that what the way the future happened, like it's even more special. You're definitely right there. No, but I was gonna say, so like prelim nights, Bell's won 6 straight and 7 of his last 8. Rico's won 4 straight and 6 of his last 7. Larson's won 4 straight, and Grant's won 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
And so it's like the prelim night guys are like, it's the same guys winning prelim nights. It's the same guy. It's like, how do we end up with the same guys every year when there's so many cars? And like, even with I feel like the passing points format is like, you would think would kind of have there be more randomness, and like there is a little bit of randomness here and there with some guys that make features and stuff, but I mean, for the most part, it's like the same guys.
I think it's just a fact that those guys are that damn good.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the luck. Everybody says that, and they know the Chili Bowl's luck of the draw with the passing points and all that. But I think you have an elite few that crap just doesn't matter. They're going to rise to the top no matter what. And you talk about the last several prelim night winners, but I think if I remember correctly, I read that Larson and Bell are tied with Sammy Swindell for prelim night wins now. And there's a part of me that like selfishly wants the old man to get a prelim night win this year to keep that streak going, just as fans to keep see how long it can go on, rather than Larson and Bell win again this year and pass him. But, he's got a tall task in front of him as well. But there's been a lot of guys over the years that have won a lot of prelim nights. But like you said, I think it's just like somehow, some way, they know what they're going to do in that building, and they know how to get around cars.
I want to talk about last year a little bit. And like you saw, I mean, obviously Larson wins, and, everybody talks about the stupid screen thing. I'm so tired of that conversation, but like you saw Bell like make a mistake, right? Like you don't see Christopher Bell make mistakes like that. And it's like, that I feel like that's to the point where we are now between Larson and Bell inside of this building, is that Bell pushed it so far, and he knew he had to do something completely insane. And like, I've heard him say since then that like, he knew he was going to flip before he even got to the corner.
Yeah. I heard a recent interview. He said he knew middle of the backstretch he was going to flip.
Exactly.
Because he said I was 6 inches too high.
Yeah.
And that's just amazing that he can analyze it like that. But like you said, I think we're down to the point between those two guys that it's who's going to be not perfect first.
Well,
Exactly.
let's say, what was it 2 years ago when Larson made the mistake going into
That was 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, one mistake out of the 55 laps,
And it cost him his first chili bowl.
yeah.
Yep.
Or Bell flips a car. I mean,
Yeah. I think like you said, it's just the last couple of years it's been between them guys, and it literally has come down to who's going to be not perfect, because them guys are usually perfect on that race.
Well, what I will say, like, I feel like Bell is like as smooth as Bell is behind the wheel. And I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, that like when I was at Chili Bowl a couple of years ago, I was in the infield. I think it was 2018. It was when Bell won his second Chili Bowl. They went out for hot laps, I think for the pole shuffle, and Bell came by me like literally full song in 3 and 4, and he had one hand on the steering wheel,
Mhm.
and he reached up with the other hand to just wipe off his visor, and it like he looked like he was sitting on a couch, like he's
Yeah.
so smooth. And like on the flip side, I feel like you see Larson actually make a lot of mistakes. Like Larson, you know, he's kind of all over the place, but like for whatever reason,
he's kind of a hustler.
yeah, if he's like but it's like when he does make mistakes, like it doesn't matter. Like it's
Yeah.
weird. Like he's able to recover so quickly from mistakes. And I think that's like what the interesting kind of dichotomy between the two of them is I feel like Bell is usually really smooth and Larson is
Yeah.
just kind of all over the place. It's an interesting thing.
I remember thinking about the same thing about Rico Abreu one time one year when he won it. I remember him running the cushion, and he'd get the car upset and it would start to push in the center and then gas it out and come out of it. And
Yeah.
he was still just so much faster than everybody doing whatever he was doing. I guess had just the car so tight and had so much forward bite off of it, but still just walked away from people with it.
You know, and I never realized you talking about the difference between Bell looking a lot calmer in a car and Larson kind of looking like he's on the edge of out of control all the time. You kind of made me think back. If you look at those two in a sprint car, I think those driving styles are emphasized in a wing sprint car as well.
For sure.
Because you definitely see Larson this move, that move real quick, just change on a dime, and Bell's a lot more just smooth through the corner. So that's
I feel like
interesting.
too, like what we've seen out of Larson, like even just talking about the sprint car stuff, is the aggression that Larson is able to have. And like Larson can be aggressive and like not just completely crash the shit out of people. But I feel like the level of aggression that we've seen out of him the last couple of years in a sprint car has kind of changed the game a little bit. And I feel like you're seeing some of the other younger guys be more aggressive because of how it's paid off for Larson. And I almost wonder, and I've talked to Blake Anderson about this too, but like where this kind of leaves like Donnie Schatz, because like Donnie is so smooth and Donnie doesn't touch anyone.
No.
And I almost wonder if like Donnie's getting left behind a little bit because he won't like make some of those moves and he won't be so aggressive in the car like we've seen from guys like Larson.
You know, I've actually had that conversation with friends as well. I'm a big Donnie Schatz fan, and I've always said the man can drive smoother, cleaner, and on lines that nobody else can better than anybody else. But yeah, I think that's part of it. You know, a lot of people have blamed the Ford engine with him, but I don't blame the engine at all. I think it's more a factor of Ricky Warner being gone. And then just like you said, I think the sport and the driving styles has surpassed his willingness to go that direction.
We've had the conversation more than once on our show about like when you go watch the midget races, it's slide or die. I mean,
oh yeah.
Yeah. You have to send it and not care.
I'll be honest. Outside of the Chili Bowl, and then I will go to the USAC National race at Red Dirt Raceway here. Outside of that, even on Flow Racing, I might catch it from time to time, but I'm not a huge fan of watching midget racing for the fact that they're just running each other over a lot.
Yeah. I feel like I like the midgets because of that. I like that it's elbows out, and it's coming kind of from more of a pavement background, like watching pavement late models for as long as I did. And some of the stuff that I was involved in when I was younger, like I almost crave that contact. And I feel like that's something you don't get in dirt racing. Like, and you obviously can't do it with open wheel cars, but like even with the late models and stuff, like I don't know why those guys don't really beat on each other more. And it's like, I feel like that's something that's really satisfying about the midgets, is that like they will elbow each other up out of the way. And I know it gets completely out of hand at times. But it's something that's like frustrating to me too, to watch like somebody like Timez. And I know everybody loves Timez, but like watching him move people and do crazy things, and then him getting completely pissed off, like when someone does the exact same things to him.
Yeah.
But I understand like why you wouldn't want to tune in sometimes to the midget stuff because of like the way that goes down.
It's a show. I mean, I like the midget racing,
but I think for me, and I, you know, going back to Donnie Schatz being a clean racer, and he's one of my all-time favorite sprint car drivers. I've always tried to be a clean driver, and I get extremely furious when somebody, just sends a right rear at my left front and I got to hit the brakes to keep from, and so like, I think that's where I have trouble watching it because I don't like getting raced that way personally, and it translates to me.
You get angry because of it.
Yeah, it's almost annoying to watch. But I will say, like, I'm not opposed to watching it. I just don't. It's not like I got to watch the midget race tonight. Like I'll play it in the background or something, but I'm usually not like totally keyed into it just because of that style of racing. But there's a lot of great races in the midget world. Cannot take that away from them. The style of racing, the style of the car overall is very entertaining. And it's fun to watch. And the 6 best nights of the year is at the Chili Bowl every year. And for whatever reason, me personally, I don't see a whole lot of that style of racing in the Chili Bowl between the big names. You see it, I think, in a lot of the lower alphabet stuff, guys that are a little bit
it's the desperation.
More willing. Yeah, the desperation. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, when you get to the big names, for the most part, they tend to respect each other a little more. And I think that's why I do enjoy the Chili Bowl more than regular midget races.
A lot of times in the A main on Saturday night, you see long green flag runs because they respect each other and they know they have to get those 55 laps down before they even start getting to where they can fight for it,
Yeah. And you're not going to see Grant and Pittman and, Sunshine and those guys. Those guys aren't going to do that stuff to each other. There's too much respect amongst those groups, I think.
And they also just run big races week in and week out. So it's, it's not like me going to run it. That's the biggest race I've ran, and
I think
guys,
too, like with
those
the
guys,
USAC midget stuff, I feel like the USAC stuff it's like a combination of factors, right? It's like, midgets are already kind of that way. And then, I feel like a lot of it though, is like a lot of the kids, and I'm not saying kids because it's like, oh, these kids get off my lawn, but it's more like the like them knowing that they need to show something and show something quickly.
They put a lot of pressure on themselves.
Exactly. Like, and a lot of them are trying to get noticed by Keith or get noticed by TRD or some of these opportunities to get moved up, and they know they have to show something. And so they take chances and they make moves that they probably shouldn't make, but they're like, they feel like they have to get something done now. And I feel like that's where it comes from. And it's not so much about like, oh, these are just shitty kids and they don't care about anything. I don't think that's true for a lot of those kids. I just think that the situation has created this kind of monster where these kids kind of have to do something.
I see that. I've not really considered that, but you're right. Cause that entire midget division has been bred as the place you need to go if you want to go to NASCAR. If you want to take the next step in your career, you got to go through the midgets. So I hadn't really considered that. Just them having to prove themselves is more why they're doing it than just because they're a dirty racer.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, look at too, like somebody like Buddy comes up as a sprint car racer in California. And then now he's been steered into the midgets almost because like, that's what the Toyota program is. Right. And it's like, if you probably talk to Buddy, I would imagine Buddy probably just wants to go race sprint cars. But like, because of, how they want you to kind of come up through that program and what's happened with Larson and Bell and some of these guys over the years, it's like, that's just where you kind of get steered. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, Buddy is just a great racer anyway, but, I feel like there's a lot less of guys just kind of straight up coming through the lower sprint car ranks and moving their way up now than there is kind of coming up through some of the open, like some of the non-wing stuff, like the midgets, I feel like.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, that shows with Buddy. Him and I think Crouch putting a sprint car team together.
Yep.
I haven't seen a whole lot of information on that, but I would assume that he's still going to be a full-time Keith Kunz driver, because when we had him on our podcast in November, he was talking about how he has the desire to go NASCAR racing, and he's still going through that TRD program. So I'd imagine as long as he's going through that TRD program, he's going to be in a midget for Keith Kunz. But even him forming his own partnership on a sprint car team, I think proves well enough that his heart probably is in sprint cars, but his career path is set in NASCAR, which has to go through the midgets.
Yeah. Well, from what I understand about that situation, he's still full-time USAC with Keith. And then he's still got to do like some pavement late model stuff, which he started into this last year. And then he got hurt after he crashed. And then he's going to kind of sprinkle in the sprint car stuff in between that. But from what I saw, they want to take like basically that deal with Crouch's dad and Bernie, like they want to go full-time World of Outlaws racing like the next year in 2023. And they want Buddy to be their driver. But then obviously if Buddy has commitments with Toyota, like that's not going to happen. But
right.
I mean, like, can you imagine Buddy as a full-time World of Outlaws driver? Like that would be super awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want the kid to succeed and do what he wants in life, but selfishly, yeah, that'd be badass to watch.
Oh,
And
for
I hope
sure.
it happens. So
I mean, it's
you know,
we have the same thing with Larson and Bell. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
those guys went that way because that's just where you're supposed to go. But
well, and see, and
I
I'm
think-
geeking out right now because Casey Kane's a full-time outlaw.
yeah,
I know it's 17, 18 years too late,
yeah,
but it's still awesome for me to watch, and I'm excited about it.
I don't know. I think a lot of the sprint car drivers were kind of glad to see Larson back in Cup.
well, yeah, they quit kicking his ass, or quit kicking their ass.
Their money situation was starting to suck.
Well, speaking of some of the young guys, like I wanted to bring up, a guy like Corey Day from California, talk about Gavin Boschel, Ryan Timms, Brent Cruz, like some of these really young guys that are going to get an opportunity at the Chili Bowl this year. And like with them changing the age requirement, like now you don't have to be 16 anymore. Like you can apply and get in. And like,
Yeah.
I feel like Day, Timms, Cruz, actually probably Day and Timms are probably a little bit of further along than Boschel and Cruz are, but like, are there some young guys in the building like that you guys are interested in seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I've got Cruz on my list and Timms, obviously. I've raced with Timms this year in ASCS.
Timms is a stud. I mean,
he is like, he's one of those guys that comes in there so fast, and like, I don't understand how he took that corner twice as fast as me. It doesn't make sense. I can't drive any harder, And I'm like, he's almost just like, get out of my way. And even sometimes it's like, oh, if I could catch you, I'd give you the bumper, because you were a little bit rough there, I thought, but but no, like I've got Timms, Cruz on my list. Outside of that 16-year-old age requirement, I feel like there's still some other young drivers that could turn some heads. Chase Randall's been turning heads in a midget this year. It wouldn't surprise me if he did something, made a prelim night feature, even ran strong. I'm going to be watching that Snyder Jr. that won the KKM give back in the Keith Kunz car.
I think that's an interesting one too.
I don't actually particularly know his age, but I assume he's over 16, but I know he's fairly young.
Yeah, he's pretty young, I think.
There's young ones all over the board that like I said are outside of that 16, but definitely for sure out of those two, I've got the under 16 that got approved. I've got Timms and Cruz kind of on my radar.
Yeah,
just because I mean both of them set records this year for youngest drivers, and Timms actually set the record for the youngest Power I National Midget feature winner, and then Cruz broke that like 2 months later, and then Timms at the end of the season broke the USAC national record.
Didn't Timms do basically the same thing in the ASCS National Tour too?
He did it back-to-back nights. Yeah, he did Power I Midget the first night, and then ASCS National the next night, broke national age records.
Well, Timms ended up with what, like 4 or 5 ASCS wins this year? Like he kicked ass during like Speed Week or whatever.
He won like 4 of the Speed Week race, 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think he ended the season with 4 or 5 national wins, and like didn't even run a small portion of the schedule, and I think almost got a top 10 in points because he was so strong when he did run with them. The kid's impressive. He's one that I'm looking forward to seeing on the World of Outlaw Tour, because I think it's destined to happen. He's started racing a 410 last year, and he was winning races, winning some regional level shows, and then he goes out and wins Trophy Cup his first time there. I think he got a little bit lucky on the way that invert happened, which was still blew my mind how that invert happened. But I mean, that's racing. You take what's given to you and you make the best of it, and that's what he did.
I mean, it's still no small task to go win that thing. I mean,
yeah. So if I had to pick like of the young guns with the lower age requirement, I mean, Ryan Timms is my guy all day long.
What do you guys think about Keith bringing like 15 cars?
15 cars. He's got 3 a night.
Now,
how do you manage that?
When we talked to him,
yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You actually did that show. I wasn't on that show, I don't think.
Okay. Well, we talked. So we had Jarrett Martin, Keith Kunz, Buddy Kofoid's crew chief on the show, and we talked about how many cars they bring to Chili Bowl. He actually said that Chili Bowl is easier on the crew than the rest of the year, because all the prelim nights, and like this year they got 15 cars. They're doing 3 cars per prelim night. He said, whereas in like going to a national USAC or Power I race, we might have 6 or 7 cars racing on one night. He said, so we're actually a little less spread out on a Chili Bowl night. And so it's a little more relaxing. And then usually he said it's pretty decent on Saturday that they get spread out throughout the alphabet, but they're busy all day. But I've seen people complaining on like Facebook Chili Bowl groups, should there be a limit on how many cars a team
No.
should bring? And I'm like, come on, people.
No,
why
absolutely
would
not.
that even be a question?
There's 400 cars in the building. Who cares if someone brings 15?
Yeah. So I think it's crazy. When I saw the number, I was like, that is insane. But probably the craziest thing about Keith Kun's lineup to me this year, or the most curious thing, shall I say, is not that he brought 15 cars, but that Bell's back with him and not in a boat midget.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's happened kind of behind the scenes that I've heard about there. And it like, as the kind of year progressed, it seemed like that this was kind of the direction that this was going. But I feel like Bell being back is probably a good thing for his chances.
I agree.
And as much as he looked pretty good with boat, like the 2 years that he didn't win after he won the 3 years, he was not in a Keith car. Right. So now him being back in a Keith car, I feel like that might be, what puts him back over the edge again, like going up against Larson. But I mean, Bell had the sprint car that he got rid of. Bell was keeping his stuff at boats. That's not happening anymore. Bell has his own shop. So something obviously happened there kind of that we don't know about. But I mean, if he wasn't going to race for a boat, I don't know that it makes sense that Bell was going to race for anyone else, especially with how tied in Bell is with TRD.
Yeah.
Is that a little bit of a show of what your pick for the win would be?
Potentially. I almost wonder if we're not in line for somebody to break out here and beat Bell and Larson. And I don't know exactly who it could be. Like, I feel like some people are talking about Grant, and I certainly don't hate that pick at all. I think Grant was good, at least at the end of the year. And like, the one thing I wonder about Larson is like at the end of the year, when he went out to California, like he wasn't quite as good out there in the midget as I thought he would be. And like, I know running a midget out in California is like not the same thing as what the Chili Bowl is going to be, but I feel like the door might be cracked like just a little bit for somebody else to step up and have a shot here.
I think so. Some of the names off the top of my head, like first name is Justin Grant. Obviously, everybody's has him in their conversation. If Team Ez can put a good smooth week together, he's definitely capable.
That'll get the stands going.
And then a guy
the crowd would love that.
Yeah, Tyler Courtney. I don't think you can count him out.
Cannon McIntosh is one I would pick to be strong too.
Yeah. I like Buddy too.
I was gonna say,
you're
Buddy,
right.
Buddy was next on my list. Like, I feel like as far as a national midget guy goes, like, and he being in a Keith Kun's car in that building, he's the next logical choice. But there's just so many other guys, Wyndham, Wise, Thorson. I mean, there's so many guys that, like you said, the door, if it's cracked open just a little bit, some of these guys could go through and bust it open.
One that we're not thinking about, but would actually be a good good for the fans too, would be Bacon.
Yeah.
I mean, he could very easily win it.
Yeah, I mean, you saw what he damn near won the BC 39 this year. I mean, he was right in the mix with those guys too. Like that's definitely a name that you could do. Do you guys do pool picks?
I don't. I've never gotten into it.
No. What about you, Travis?
Nope.
Never done the Chili Bowl pool?
I haven't.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I thought about everybody does this. I figured with as many times as you guys have been neck deep in this thing.
No, man, I haven't. And that's the crazy part is like I sometimes I ask people like, oh, how's it work? How's it scored? And I've never really gotten a full understanding of it.
I literally have the sheet like sitting in front of me right now.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I've never gotten into it. One of these days I will, but I haven't yet.
I kind of got sucked into it with Ross several years ago, and it's like the opportunity, like it's like the reason you play like fantasy football, right, is it's like it kind of draws you into like all of the other stuff, and it's like trying to track your picks like throughout the week. I think is super fun, but like I'm never gonna like do well in it because like I'm not like the guys that seem to do well. And like I used the couple of years that I did go to Chili Bowl, like watching the early in the week stuff where the guys are like sitting in the stands and then like they're going around and like talking to like all of the drivers, trying to like make notes about who the hell to pick and like which group. And like, I mean, I'm not going to take it that far, so I'm not going to win, but yeah, like, and that was like something in looking at some of the groupings, that was kind of the other thing that I had on my list a little bit is like the kind of respect or lack of respect that some guys are getting in some of the groups. And I feel like somebody that I think is probably getting a little too much respect in the groupings is Chase Elliott. And I'm curious, like, what you guys think about Chase. Like, I think he's probably in too high of a group for where he's at in a midget. But like, what do you guys think about some of the guys like him or like Santino Ferrucci or like Conor Daly come into this deal?
So I'm 100% for this. I've had rants on our podcast about I'm griping at dirt track fans who complain and moan that these guys shouldn't be here. They need to stay
Oh,
where they're from.
I'm completely against all of that. I hate
This.
that.
This is 100% great for the sport that he's here, because I guarantee you there's a ton of Chase Elliott fans had no clue what dirt track racing was, and some of them probably watched and didn't like it. Some of them probably watched and they probably bought Flow Racing after that.
Mm-hmm.
But Chase Elliott ran a national midget race at USAC, or the USAC midget race at Red Dirt Raceway last year. I went to that race. I kid you not, I saw at least 30 Chase Elliott t-shirts in the stands that were NASCAR t-shirts,
Mm-hmm.
And then hats. And it was just apparent that he's NASCAR's most popular driver for a reason. And guys like him, Conor Daly, Santino Ferrucci, I love the fact that they came to the Chili Bowl once. What really sets it apart for me is the fact that they're continuing to come. And even Chase Elliott has opened himself up to ridicule from people. He's not lighting the world on fire.
But I don't think you can expect him to do that. I mean,
Well, yeah, but
let's get in a
it's
midget
great.
5 times a year.
But there are a bunch of people that don't know
Yeah.
about dirt racing. When they watch it, they expect him to beat up on all the smaller guys.
Yeah, and
It's
just
like the
don't
Kyle
realize-
Busch at the Tulsa shootout thing.
I was just
Yeah.
about to bring that up.
Yeah.
Like, people just have unrealistic expectation. Oh, he's so much better than, and even Kyle Busch went on Twitter and defended. And he was like, I'm not better than these guys. These guys are good.
It's a completely
And
different discipline.
It is
Mhm.
a completely different
yeah.
discipline. Just the fact that they're doing it and trying to get better at it is fantastic for the sport. I think some people do give them too much respect for their name. Their name's not going to win the race. But just the fact that they're there, I'm very appreciative of it, and I love it.
That probably works a little bit like how Vegas betting odds work.
Yeah.
Like, you see this big team, like people are more likely going to bet on the Yankees than they are, another team. It's probably kind of the same thing. We see this name, we recognize it. We'd bet money on this because we know who they are.
Yeah. The other name kind of in here that I think didn't get enough respect is Ryan Newman. Like, for all of the things that Ryan Newman has done, like in open wheel dirt racing, for him to kind of be a little further back in this, I was a little surprised at how far back he is. Like, where do you guys think about somebody like him in terms of this race? Like, I feel like if he got hot, like, I would not be shocked to see him, like, maybe winning a C into a B on Saturday, like maybe an outside shot. Like, I feel like has the talent and the experience to be able to do that.
So I'm a guy that I think once a dirt racer, you're always a dirt racer. I've loved Flow Racing last year when they started the 24/7, and I'm watching all these mid to late 90s USAC races with Tony Stewart and Ryan Newman and things like that. And like, I'll be honest, I had forgotten how much of a badass Ryan Newman was.
Yeah.
And so it's been really exciting to see him back in a midget for myself personally. But I do agree with you. I think like he could get hot. I think the talent's still there. I think if everything comes together, and I think as he continues to keep running these races and get more familiar with it and the kind of the muscle memory back to it, it wouldn't shock me one bit at all. Like you said, if he made a run and got into the show and was running the main event on Saturday.
Yeah. Did you guys see the tweet from Matt Weaver? He was talking to Conor Daly about Chili Bowl stuff, and Conor mentioned that Roman Grosjean, former Formula One driver, is interested in Chili Bowl and BC39. Like, how badass would that be for Roman Grosjean to show up at the Chili Bowl?
So I was actually listening to your podcast when you talked about that.
Yeah.
And I was actually pulling into a customer, and I immediately paused the podcast, called Travis, and I said, "Hey, I'm about to walk into a customer, but I got to tell you this before I forget to."
Yeah. Just
heard on DIRTRACKR Daily that Roman Grosjean is talking about running a midget in the BC39 in the Chili Bowl. I was pumped up about it.
Hell yeah.
Because of the exact same thing we just got through talking about. The cross exposure is fantastic for everyone. To have a name like that, who was on at a world level talent, Formula One driver wanting to come to the Chili Bowl, is awesome to me. And I hope it happens. I love it. I love it, man.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome that somebody like that is like, again, like from my own experience, like how little I used to know about the Chili Bowl and where I'm at now, it's like you forget, or you don't realize like how, like for us that are like in it, like, the only thing we think about is dirt racing, right? So it's like you forget that there are other people that aren't like super locked into this stuff. But it's the fact that somebody like him has had conversations with Conor Daly about going and running this race, I think is pretty cool. And it shows you like the power of this event, and like just like how kind of far and wide the Chili Bowl reaches when it comes to like the world of motorsports, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. We've had NASCAR drivers, sports car drivers, IndyCar drivers. Now you got drag racers. You got a Formula One driver talking about it. It's unbelievable how this isn't just the biggest race in dirt tracking. It's one of the biggest races in motorsports, and that Golden Driller means something across all of motorsports, and that's impressive.
That was my question. Since we live here, it's the biggest race in this state. But from outside, does it still kind of feel like it's kind of like a hidden gem, or do people are starting to realize it, or do they realize it's a big deal, or what's the perception outside of here?
I honestly think that it's like getting bigger and bigger, and people are starting to recognize it. And it's like, you start having like people like Steve Post talking about this being a bucket list event and wanting to go, and the NASCAR talent that's starting to show up. And it's something that like happens to me all the time inside the NASCAR garage. And like, there's a lot more guys now that work in the NASCAR garage that used to work on sprint cars and late models and things like that. But like the conversations you end up having, like on a Sunday before a cup race, people coming up to you, man, did you see that sprint car race last night? Did you see this? Did you see that? Like it seems to me that there's a lot more attention on just dirt racing as a whole. And then obviously, you start talking about Knoxville and the Chili Bowl and some of the bigger events. That there is more attention on these events, and that they are kind of growing. And I think you see that even like with Chili Bowl tickets, like how I feel like it's getting really, really difficult to get Chili Bowl tickets now. And like you start talking about like Bristol back in the day, where like it used to be Bristol to get tickets to the night race, like you had to have somebody die because you just couldn't get them. And I feel like Chili Bowl is kind of getting close to that.
It is.
Like you cannot get a reserved seat at the Chili Bowl. And then, if you want to go, like, obviously they're going to keep selling pit passes until they can't sell pit passes anymore. But like, so you can still get into the building, but to try to get a reserved seat, I feel like it's difficult.
I looked into my reserve seat. I bought the same tickets from a guy for like 6 years straight. And finally one year he said, you know what? I'm never going to use these seats again. Do you want me to just sign these over to your name? Yeah. And I was like, yes, please. So I got my 2 seats and never had to go through the waiting process, because at the Chili Bowl, you can sign tickets over or grandfather them to somebody else if something happens to you. But it is one of those type of events. You wouldn't think about it, but like you said, Bristol night race, I imagine Indy 500 is the same way. Like there's season tickets, so to speak, that go down from family member to family member or stay within the family for many, many years.
Yeah. I feel like too, you're seeing that just generally around dirt racing, that like there's more attention on it than ever. It's growing, and people want it to be on network television and all of this type of thing. And I don't think we'll get to that point. I think there's an outside chance that you could see it maybe be something like a Supercross or something like that. But I feel like the streaming services have really helped. And I feel like that's kind of the future it's such a good business model. Like you look at a company like World Racing Group and what they've been able to do for their racing series, basically based on the money they're making off of Dirt Vision. And then like all of the money that Flow has pumped into, USAC and all the tracks that they follow. Like it just like it's manageable, and they can control the money flow and all of these things. And I feel like it makes a lot of sense for like the future of dirt racing to kind of be on streaming. And I feel like now the biggest thing is just keeping the cost down as much as we can and try to lower that price point, because you're going to drag more people in if it's less expensive to get in. And I kind of wish a little bit, like I know why Flow does what they do. I wish that they had a monthly option. I got a little bit lower price point, just like Dirt Vision does, so you could maybe suck some more of those people in and then convince them. And I know from a business standpoint, it makes a lot more sense for them to do it the $150 a year, but I do wish that there was that lower opportunity for them to get in.
Yeah, I think you're completely right on the streaming being the future. One example, Chili Bowl coming up, they're on live TV, on network TV, MAV TV on Saturday night.
And to be honest, like MAV TV ruins Saturday night. And like, I'm sorry to say that, but like if you are in the building, MAV TV completely kills it. Like all the track work, all the downtime, like it is that event is run so efficiently all week long until you get to like the D's on Saturday. And then it is insane how bad that event falls off from there trying to get to the A feature.
You just took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly where I was going with that. It was like, if people would the people that think they want dirt track racing on network TV, if they would just think about Saturday night at the Chili Bowl and think, do you want your racetrack every Saturday night to be ran like that? You don't, because you're going to quit selling tickets. Fans are going to quit showing up. The only reason they're still doing it now is because it's one of the biggest events in the world for midget racing, dirt track racing in general. But it sucks being in the stands there and having an hour in between C's and B's, or just so they can get their 4-hour time slot on television or whatever. Like I said, it is such an efficient event that they have to do what the network television wants them to do. It's almost a shame. I know a lot of people enjoy being able to watch it on MAV TV, but I just assume to be able to finish out the entire week on Flow Racing. You've already paid for it anyways. And so I wish that people would think about that one particular example as it on if they really want network television involved in their racetrack or not.
Yeah. And I think too, the dirt racing, I feel like even if you have like a really efficiently run program, that it's difficult to put on TV, like in a decent window. And it's like, if things happen, you have red flags, there's weather, like, I feel like it's a really difficult proposition. And even for me, like on the streaming services, like I don't watch a lot of races live. Like I'll probably tune into a lot of the Chili Bowl stuff live, but like through the year, like this year, I watched like every Lucas race, every Water Valley late model race, sprint car race, all the USAC stuff. I mean, I watched everything, but like I watched hardly none of it live. And it's like, I'm going to go back the next day when I can fast forward to the parts I want to see. I want to watch the feature. If there's a crash, I can skip forward, past the cleanup and all of that type of stuff. Because like that way I can watch it in a much more condensed window. And I feel like putting that stuff on TV is going to hurt the at-track product. And it's like, I just don't know that it works like in a very rigid kind of box of being in a certain time slot on television.
Yeah. I know we've went pretty long so far. We're pushing an hour, but I kind of did some homework myself, and I kind of wanted to, I felt a little bit pressured because I know you're an analytical and a stats guy. So I wanted to be prepared. I wanted to be prepared for you. But I did want to have the conversation. I kind of want to talk prelim nights. I don't know if you have a list of the driver breakdowns per night or not, but
I do, because it's on the Chili Bowl sheet.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious let's just talk potential lock-ins each night. Winner, second place. Just I got a list of what I consider some of the big names that night, threats, I think, to win that night. And then let's maybe throw out some dark horse picks each night. But I will say, starting off, if you're racing Tuesday night, that sucks.
Yeah, for sure.
There's got to be a good 30 people that usually lock into their prelim night feature on Tuesday. The list on Tuesday night is just insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like, I mean, just the fact that Larson is on Tuesday, I think is, kind of ends it for everybody else. Like there's no reason why Larson won't win that race. And like, you look at the Chili Bowl pool, the group 1 for Tuesday is Courtney, Beeson, and Kofoid. And so it's like, those are the group 1 guys. And that doesn't even include Larson. So it's like, how do you get 2 guys out of that group? And then you add T-Mez, you add Alex Bright, Zach Dom, Chris Wyndham, Zeb. I mean, like, that is a vicious night.
Yeah. It's insane.
And so you're going to end up with guys that are going to be BC's D's, like from that group of drivers that are going to be trying to run, and like a lot of these guys were in the Saturday feature last year. Like, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm sure it's happened before, but this is one of the most stacked nights I can recall.
Like, I mean, it's nuts. And like, you look at some of these other nights, I feel like, there's still some other good nights for sure, but Tuesday is just murderer's row night. And the fact that they're only taking 2 cars out of there is pretty wild.
I feel like if I was looking at the entire week right now and I had to pick a night, I want to race Monday night.
Yeah.
I feel like Monday night, like, to me, I think the top dog Monday night is probably Ken and McIntosh.
Yeah.
A couple other names, Jerry Coons Jr. I could see David Gravel putting a run together. He's looked decent at times in the midget. Kind of one of my dark horse picks for Monday night. Like, and it's kind of maybe like a guilty, selfish hope that I want Nick Hoffman to be very successful in that.
Yeah.
And he looked great at Gateway.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping he's on a good team. So I've got Nick Hoffman listed as like my top dark horse for that night.
What was the story about Hoffman last year? Like, something broke and he was like using like the throttle or something with his hand. I can't remember exactly what the story was, but he was like one-handed the wheel for like an entire heat race or something, and like running something else with his other hand or something.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I think it might have been like the throttle pedal linkage broke, and it would be possible with the cam there just to hit it and use your throttle with your right bell crank.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something along those lines. But yeah, Hoffman is like you saw what he did at the Dome, right? Like he's running well in the midget, then he gets in the modified and wins, and he's running good in the late model. Like, he's definitely a guy I think on a national level that probably doesn't get quite enough respect. And I think that's probably the case just because he's always just running a modified and everybody like he just dominates in the modified. So like people don't think about it like that, but he's definitely one of the most talented guys I think in the country right now.
And some other big names, notable names at least that you got, on Monday night, you got Chase Briscoe, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, Cole Bodine. And I list Chase Elliott, like we talked about earlier. I don't necessarily consider him a threat yet.
No, for sure.
But he's just a big name.
Yeah, he'll be fun to watch anyway.
Yeah, I kind of got on Monday night like my top 3 to watch: Cannon McIntosh, Jerry Coons Jr., and David Gravel.
I would maybe throw Mitchell Moles in there. Like him being in a Matt Wood car. I think he's definitely a talented kid, and winner at the shootout, and he's still young. I think there's still opportunity for him to get better there, but I definitely think he's a guy that you could see maybe make a little noise this week.
Yeah.
So
well, moving to Tuesday night. I think anybody's crazy if they don't have Kyle Larson at the top of their list.
Yeah.
But just to continue to talk about how stacked this night is, some other just big names and midgets: Jake Newman, Tyler Courtney, T-Mez, Jonathan Beeson. I feel like Tim McCready can still be a threat if it comes together for him. Sam Haferteep Jr. has showed some promise in a midget. Another big name, not necessarily a threat yet, but Santino Ferrucci, then Buddy Kofoid. Jake Swanson, he could pull something out. He's a very talented driver.
I mean, shots.
Chris Wyndham, Zed Wise, shots. I mean, the list just goes on. I've got Kyle Larson on the top, but man, my list for second, it could be anybody: Courtney, T-Mez, Beeson, Kofoid, Wyndham, Wise, and the list could go on.
Yeah.
Second to me is just going to be probably one of the best battles of the week. Could end up being for second on Tuesday night. Yeah.
Well, and somebody else here, he's a little further down, but a guy who's been in multi-time feature starter, World of Outlaws race director Mike Hess, also on Tuesday. And if things go well, we've seen Mike Hess make some runs as well.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's going to be a top 5 guy in that prelim night feature, but I could definitely see him running halfway decent on that Tuesday night as well.
I've got for a dark horse for Tuesday night, I've got Alex Bright listed.
Yeah. He's so talented. He's like another one, he's a regional guy that just doesn't get enough respect, I think.
Right. Exactly.
Kind of nationally, but obviously does very well in his kind of part of the country. And he races a lot against, and actually he's on the same night as well as Briggs Danner. Like Briggs is a kid from the Northeast that runs really well, also. So he's definitely somebody I think you could keep an eye on there on Tuesday also.
Absolutely. I'm pretty much from Tuesday on the name. I mean, like I said before, Monday night's where I would want to be if I was picking a night. Wednesday night, you got Sammy Swindell, Brad Sweet, Kevin Thomas Jr., Blake Hahn, Damian Gardner, Ryan Timms. Ryan Timms, I have him listed as a threat to potentially win the night. But I think this night might end up being Wednesday night might end up being the one where we could get somebody like a new prelim night winner.
Yeah. I feel like Wednesday could be one of the most entertaining nights.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think you can see Sweet, Kevin Thomas Jr., Blake Hahn. I still think Sammy can be competitive. Damian Gardner, Ryan Timms. I got a dark horse. My dark horse for Wednesday night, I think, is Chase Randall. I really think he can be pretty potent in a midget when he wants to be.
Well, I think you go a little deeper even. I think, you've got like a guy like Mario Klauser won the award title this year.
Yeah.
I mean, Robert Dalby's on this night. And like
you also have Parker Price Miller.
Yeah. PPM is in there. Like the on the Chili Bowl pool, like group 3 to me is like a really interesting group here. And like to try to pick one name out of this group: Justin Peck, Brody Roa, Chase Randall, Corey Day, Caden Brown, Ryan Timms, Tyler Thomas, and Anthony Macri. Like that is a really wild group to try to pick one name out of. And so I definitely think that we could have a very entertaining night on Wednesday for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Thursday, you got Spencer Baston, JJ Yaley, Jason McDougal, Brady Bacon, Logan Seavey, CJ Leary, Christopher Bell, many more names. I think your top guy that night is probably going to looking at Christopher Bell, but I think you could really see Logan Seavey put a good run together in the Swindell car, and probably get that second lock in on Wednesday or on Thursday night. I'm sorry.
Yep. I like Emerson. He's on Thursday. Him kind of teamed up now with Clausen Marshall, I think is a great pairing. Thorson is always going to be good. He's on that night.
Yep.
And I like
miss Thorson.
Yeah. I like Shane Golobic a lot. Shane was going to have a really great prelim last year and kind of ended up getting screwed. But I think Golobic is really talented and is always good when it comes to this event. But yeah, there's some good guys on this night. Cruz, Brenham Crouch on Thursday.
Some local guys that run really well with Chili Bowl. Andrew Deal and Matt Sherrill both could be some potential dark horses to make some good runs. Yeah,
and Daniel Robinson is on this night as well. Daniel was a hero last year with the finger.
How about his kids junior sprint at the shootout? Did you see that?
I didn't see that one.
Oh, his kids junior sprint at the shootout was a baby blue it was a Channel Lock Sammy throwback.
Oh,
It was
nice.
a number one.
That's
And
awesome.
They interviewed the kid and Scotty said, "Are you a big Sammy Swindell fan?" He's like, not really.
I love it.
So yeah, he's playing that out still a little bit this year.
Yeah, for sure. What about Friday?
Man, Friday. I think Friday night's Justin Grant's night.
Yeah.
Some of my threat, Justin Grant, Casey Kane, Pittman, Klossmeyer, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is racing that night, Ryan Newman as well. But some of my threats, Justin Grant, Darren Pittman, Tucker Klossmeyer. I think Ryan Bernal's a threat. He's always fast around there.
Yep.
Kind of my dark horses, maybe like a Bryant Wiedemann, Andrew Felker's got potential. Ace McCarthy's had some good runs. We got Casey Schumann on my list as well. He's a wheel man that can make some things happen.
What about Frank?
Frank Flood?
Frank Flood.
Yeah, I had him on my dark horse list. Man, the kid's a shoe. He is.
He's in a decent car too. He's in a
he's in a good car. Yeah, he's in a good car. I'll put it to you this way. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be shocked because I think he has the potential for a run like that for sure.
Yeah.
It's just there's so many names. Like I feel like you can go through that list all day long and go, what about this kid? What about this kid?
We also got to make sure we throw Lane Goodman out because he's right.
Is Lane on Friday?
Yeah, Lane's on Friday.
So
nice.
Lane Goodman's my number one dark horse for Friday night.
Lane's gonna be a lock in on Friday. We're calling it right now.
We're calling it right now. So,
I just want my photo taken on the stage with him. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Now I do want Darren Pittman, man. I want him to win the Chili Bowl so bad.
Yeah.
Just local guy.
Our Charger last year too, 20th to 5th.
Yeah. And the year he almost won it or had a chance at winning it and got second, somebody made me go on a cruise so they could get married. But so I missed that.
Yeah.
So one of his best runs at the Chili Bowl I missed. So I need a repeat of that so I can witness it in person.
I took him on vacation.
I paid for it myself. So,
but
I just think, man, yeah, it's just going to be crazy just to think about ever since that they've changed where we added Monday night and it's down to top two lock in instead of the podium.
Yeah.
I feel like it's gotten that much tougher to really even just predict. How can you go from 70 cars a night and try to just sit here and guess the top two guys?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely going to be difficult, I think, to try to figure out who's going to win on a nightly basis. I wonder too about, like some of the other guys that and I feel like Pittman is even kind of in this, but like some of the guys that aren't racing as much anymore. And like even a guy like Stenhouse seems to be pretty good every time he comes to the Chili Bowl, but he's not running a ton of dirt races a year.
Right.
Pittman obviously was massively scaled back this year with his schedule. And I feel like there's just a lot of names in here, even like, Brady doesn't run a ton of midget races anymore. And you look at like Alex Bowman, like the guys he's bringing, like, he's going to have good stuff. Like, could CJ or a Swanson like do something in one of his cars? I don't know, like it's very, very deep, I feel like. And there's going to be somebody to come out of like one of these groups and shock us a little bit. I think what happens every year, but to try to predict who it is, I think is incredibly difficult.
And I think I'd rather have it that way rather than it be predictable. I'd rather have that shocker. I'd rather have that guy go, did not see that coming, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah. And like, I feel like too, you get guys like a Bright or somebody like that, who's a good regional driver, who's going to come through on one of these nights and do something that, that those of us are really locked in are not going to be surprised by, but there's going to be other people who are going to be like, who the hell is this guy? I've never heard of this guy before.
I will say after the Alphabet Soup run that Jason McDougal had last year, I'm hopeful that he has a great like prelim night. And
do we think Bernal gets booed like at any point? Like, does that carry over from last year?
I don't think
it does because I already forgot it was Bernal. I might not have had,
there you go.
I might not have had him on my list if I'd have remembered that. No, I don't think he does. I would be willing to bet the majority of the fans didn't realize who it was. They just booed him who that car that was on the record at that time. And how about that? Was that not epic? That tow truck driver, they're wrecked in turn 3. And rather than just taking him right off the ramp, he does a Polish victory.
Oh no, you got to go all the way around.
Like that record driver right there deserved a golden driller that day.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I want to ask you, it's completely off topic of Chili Bowl, but I texted you about this, but I want to ask about your role this year, Michael, with the OCRS and kind of getting an opportunity. Like, are you still going to race while you do that? Are you like, what does that look like right now?
I say yes. My wife laughs.
Okay.
It's going to be a busy schedule. Right now, I think I've got 39 races scheduled that I'm going to be a competition director of. Between the Oil Capital Racing Series and the United Sprint League, which is it used to be USAC Wingless Sprints Oklahoma. Terry Maddox and Kerry Gorby have purchased that as well. And we're reverting the rules back from an open motor series to back to the Oklahoma Champ Sprint and the IMCA 305 series rules package that Oil Capital Racing Series runs. So it made sense to kind of put both of those series on my shoulders to help with. And I wanted to. I really enjoy non-wing racing. I don't do it anymore. Just kind of the risk versus rewards not there for me. So being a part of a non-wing series is going to be awesome. But having 39 races where I'm going to have to work rather than race is going to be kind of a culture shock, but I'm looking forward to the change for sure. I've been plugging all the schedules into a spreadsheet, trying to figure out what races I'm going to be able to race. If I wanted to and threw in a few midweek shows, but like raced a Friday night and then worked on a Saturday night, I could still get upwards of 20 races in this season. I won't race that many because I'm going to try to do some family stuff in between, not try to be that busy. But I'm hopeful that I'm going to race about 12 to 15 races, which is pretty on par for me anyways, because I ran 11 races this year. I ran 9 last year. I ran 14 the year before. I'm quite a few years removed from running 25 to 30 shows a year locally. As I get older, it gets harder to work a full-time job and do all that stuff. But now apparently I'm going to try to do it with another job on the side. Yeah. So
tell me about Terry. I had him on not long ago, and I feel like a big problem I feel like facing kind of dirt racing as a whole going forward is just how old some of the people are that are in charge of a lot of the stuff, the series and the tracks and things like that. And like in the middle of all of this, like Terry is completely the opposite of all of that. Like Terry's a young guy. He's come up quickly, I feel like. And who starts racing series like when they're in high school? Like, the stuff that this guy's done, but like, where do you see Terry kind of fitting in with all of this stuff? And like, where do you think you see Terry going in the coming years?
I think Terry's a future Hall of Famer.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that to suck up because he's my new boss. I was bragging about him last year. The kid is a racer's promoter. And I texted him the other day when he added a race at Belleville High Banks for the Now 600 Speed Week through Nebraska. They're coming, I think, back into Belleville, Kansas, but they're going to run on the little track. But I texted him, I said, dude, the series you started when you were a teenager in high school just booked a race at the Belleville High Banks. I'm like, that's incredible. And he's like, dude, it's crazy to think about. But I honestly think that with what he's doing, like you said, the youthfulness that he's bringing in the sport is something that drew me to him. And that's actually what started our conversations of me being involved. And I've had people talk to me about my new role with OCRS, and they've said the same thing about me. It's nice to get some youthfulness back in the sport. I think people, nothing against our older promoters and our older directors, but they get a bit stagnant and they're a lot of times resistant to change. And sometimes things just need change, not only for the racers, but for the fans as well. And Terry does a great job of that. He takes care of the racers. I've never seen a guy, at least in my lifetime, that looks like he cares about the racers as much as Terry does, because he's all the time doing, if you come race with me on this Friday night, I'll pay for your pit pass for our second show at this other track on Saturday night. Or if you race this week, you race for free next week. I've seen him give away tires. I think I've even seen him pay for teams' hotel rooms if they want, would come up and race this 2-day show. The guy puts more money back in the racers' pockets than I've seen a lot of people do. And I think he still wants it to be better. The conversations we've had, we both want some of the pay, at least of the series I'm involved in, to be better. But he's like, hey, we just got to start here. We can't do too big of a chunk at once. We got to start here, build it up, show people that it's worth it, and then we can get more to them. But like I said, man, he's impressive for what he does at such a young age. Sometimes it's hard to remember that excuse me, that he is so young. I think he's 24, 25, and he's done so much in such a short time. And that he would be, a guy like Emmett Hahn had enough respect for him and trust in him to pass down his legacy to him. And I think that in itself says a lot about who Terry Maddox is.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Terry does. Travis, what are you going to do this year? What's your schedule look like?
Well, I got a 2-year-old son.
Yeah.
And so that's taken up a lot more time than it used to. And we're going to put a car together, go run some local stuff. And then we're going to go try to hit some OCRS races and just kind of run around here in this area. But
Travis is actually going to be the first car I'm going to disqualify as a competition
yeah,
director.
Perfect.
I told him when he got hired, I got to stop telling him how I'm cheating.
I was going to say, we know he's been cheating this whole time. So
Yeah. We don't hang out as much anymore now.
I said, I'm
joking.
I'm just going to make a blanket statement and be like, oh, wow, he disqualifies his best friend. We better not mess around.
Put it in the box, Travis. You guys are done.
But really, just like we have past couple years. I mean, we ran for a track championship in 2018, and after that, it was kind of we just go play around with local stuff and OCRS and stuff. Just hit and miss some races.
Have I seen that you guys have put some other people on your car at some various points?
I've put Joshua Shipley out of Arizona in my car for some of the, like I said, mentioned earlier, I don't race non-wing anymore.
It was part of my car last year.
Yeah, it was actually this year. We were in a predicament this year where it didn't work out that I had the motor for the race, but I had the car, and Travis junked his car but had a motor. So we teamed up this year, and Josh Shipley still came in. He's a ASCS Santan Desert non-wing sprint car champion from Arizona. And we put him in my car the last couple of years for our big non-wing race here in Oklahoma. We got a 55 lap Ironman challenge, as they call it here, 55 lap non-wing race here at Creek County Speedway in Oklahoma. And man, we really enjoyed doing that. This past year, it was, what was it? 10,000 to win.
It's 10,000 to win. I think it's 500, 600 to start.
No, it was well more than that. Was it 1,000 to start? I think.
Oh. And then they had contingency money.
Yeah,
throughout the whole thing. Oh yeah, it's becoming a huge show here.
Yeah, 40, 50 cars. It's great. So
awesome.
It's a big enough show that you want to be involved. But I just, like I said, I don't really race without the wing on anymore. Just after a few of the bad wrecks with some of the kids over the last few years, I just
and I tell you, I almost had just as much fun doing that, because then I had my son with me and I had to chase him around the track, and he was just running into everybody's trailer. So, and I didn't have to worry about it because Michael was crew chiefing, and
you
so
just hang out.
I kind of just liked being part of a car owner,
Yeah, hell yeah. I love it. Well, we'll get ready to shut it down here. I want to, we got to do picks. So who's winning this thing?
I'm going to just solely based off of how Kyle Larson looked in California and Christopher Bell being back at Keith Coons. I'm picking Christopher Bell.
Travis?
Well, I mean, I'm going to have to pick one of those two. I would say Larson. If I'm putting money on somebody, I'm putting money on Larson.
Okay.
But I'd say I'd like to see somebody else win it, just because I'm that kind of person, like to see the underdog or, whoever. So I'd kind of like to see a Grant or a Cannon McIntosh win it. But I'd probably be more excited to see somebody that doesn't have velvet ropes around their car. That'd be the people because they have the gates that are keeping everybody away from the big names.
Yeah.
I want to see somebody in the back of the building win it.
Okay. I think Bell probably wins, but I'm going to pick Kofoid just to be different. And I think Kofoid had a good year. And I think, just he has the talent. I think this could be kind of a breakout moment for Buddy. So I'm going to pick Buddy just to be different.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great pick. He's kind of my low-key second pick for sure.
Yeah.
Then I'm like a Justin Grant, T-Mez, Courtney. So I mean, the problem is we could keep going on this conversation forever.
Yeah. So that's the problem. So for those people that are watching my version of this, tell people where they can find your show.
So Passing Points Podcast, we are listed on Facebook at Passing Points Podcast, on Twitter at Passing_Points, and on Instagram at Passing Points Podcast. The show, you can find it on Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, all those places, pretty much all the places, except I can't get on Apple for some reason. That drives me nuts. But and then we've got passingpoints.buzzsprout.com, where you can find the show listed there as well. That's pretty much all. We're audio right now. Maybe one day we'll get into the video side of things, but that's pretty much where you can find our podcast. We do it weekly.
We try to do it weekly.
We pretty much do it weekly. We do weekly episodes. I think we're
so just do it without you, Travis.
No, they do.
Yeah,
because you were on our show the week on the weeks.
Yeah, it was just Michael and Lane.
Yeah, the only person we actually need there is Michael. Michael's the one that does all the work. Me and Lane, I tell everybody, me and Lane show up to make sure we screw his show up. That's why we show up.
But we pretty much cover you know, I know you cover everything dirt. We stick mostly to open wheel. You know, we got an open segment. I'll try to talk NASCAR a few times and they'll roll their eyes at me, but pretty much stick to World of Outlaws, ASCS, All Stars, USAC, Power I, some ASCS regional, Lucas Oil Now 600 series, Terry Maddox National Micro Series, and then we'll jump into our Sooner State Spotlight covering what's going on here in Oklahoma open wheel racing as well. But we'd love to have you guys. If you're out there listening to this, check us out. Like I said, we're putting out content every week for you.
I love it. Well, this has been fun. We have to do this again. So, but thanks for the time, and get over to the expo. You guys got work to do.
Yeah. All right, man. We appreciate you taking the time to collab with us.